You've probably heard me repeatedly raising concerns around the impact of the Ukrainian Accommodation Recognition Payment, the ARP, on the private rental sector. And these concerns have been constantly dismissed by Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael, and indeed by other opposition parties. The government first and long denied that the ARP was impacting on the private rental sector at all. Then ministers repeatedly refused to release any reports that they had commissioned on the matter, and they have repeatedly voted down amendments from Sinn Féin that would address the unfairness and the problems with the scheme. But now we finally have a publication of a government report. It's entitled The Regulatory Impact Analysis of the Residential Tenancies Board. And it states, just to read, the ARP scheme is having a negative impact on the private rental sector for a number of reasons. It goes on to say that the ARP still represents a substantial incentive to divert properties from the private rental sector to the ARP scheme. The tax-free nature of the ARP means that it is more attractive than rental returns in some parts of the country. That is exactly what we have been saying for years. And government ministers have serious questions to answer about their failures to be honest with people about the impact of the ARP when I and others have repeatedly asked questions of them. And opposition parties that took government at their word should also reflect on their position. So just a reminder of what the ARP is. It's a scheme that provides a non-means tested housing support. In other words, you could be earning any amount of money. It's available to Ukrainians, but not available to anyone else in need of housing. And it uniquely provides a tax-free payment from the state directly to a landlord, and that landlord then avoids all of the obligations that they would have with any other tenant. And the scheme also allows for unregulated top-up payments to be made from the Ukrainian resident to the landlord. Now, the government have repeatedly extended the scheme without addressing any of the fundamental flaws. As I say, for a long time they denied that there were any. But the ARP payment has morphed from being an emergency measure, a very laudable measure that was set to encourage people to host displaced Ukrainians in their own home at the start of the war. And it's turned into a way that landlords can make more money without having any obligations to their tenants. So Minister Jim O'Callaghan has now tabled a motion to extend the ARP for another year, and that's actually going to come before the Dáil next week. And despite announcing today that the payments involved will be reduced, that's not part of next week's motion, which is just to continue it as it currently is. But it is clear that the scheme should not be extended without the type of changes that we have proposed. And once again, I've tabled an amendment to the Minister's motion, and my amendment would introduce a means test, just as there is with any other housing support. And the amendment also seeks to ban top-up payments and then to confine the scheme to those who are actually hosting in their own homes, so that we can finally end the distortion of the rental market. And what I hope is that at this stage, finally, the TDs from both the government and other opposition parties will support this amendment. The debate and the vote will take place next Wednesday, and then we'll see which TDs are actually on the side of fairness. And I'll keep you posted as we move closer to that time.